Welcome to the Beyond the Quantum Biopharma lawsuit, an exclusive video series production of AGORACOM, in which we speak to multiple investors who have suffered financial and emotional losses stemming from a $700 million lawsuit filed by Quantum Biopharma, alleging that CIBC World Markets, RBC Dominion Securities, and others engaged in market manipulation in the share price of the company that was once valued at nearly $1 billion. In this exclusive series, Quantum Biopharma, which was previously known as FSD Pharma and traded under the symbol HUGE, HUG, has invited shareholders to come forward to share their personal stories with their fellow investors in order to help build an even stronger case, as well as encourage others to step forward. And today, I'm happy to welcome Anthony Borg. Anthony, welcome to AGORACOM.
Thank you, George. Nice to be here. Good afternoon.
Hey, thanks for being here. We know that this has been a difficult ordeal for you, as it's been for most shareholders, and just want to thank you, applaud you for the courage to come out and share your story with everybody. My first question, tell us why you first started investing, and was it in Quantum Biopharma or was it in FSD Pharma when it was huge? And how optimistic you felt about it, and a couple of reasons why you invested in the company.
Well, my initial involvement with either FSD or HUGE, but I knew it as HUGE in those days, was primarily because of my interest in what was going on in the cannabis field. When I started to see what was happening with cannabis in Canada, particularly, I realized that there was a potential. I was hoping that the market would just go boom, as in fact it did for a short while before it went the other way. But with FSD Pharma, I thought that because of what they had, the infrastructure, the fact that they were expanding into, I believe, somewhere just outside of Toronto, they had either purchased or they were going to be purchasing some distribution network, etc. I felt very good about the company. I looked at the results. I looked at the principal shareholders behind it, and I thought this was going to be an investment worth getting into. And I did. I went in fairly big. In fact, somewhere between 2017, 2018, even 2019, I was buying a fair number of shares.
So I'm assuming you're kind of happy with what the company was doing. Nobody's perfect, but you're happy with the progress. Did you often find yourself maybe confused or perplexed about why the company's activities were going one way, but the stock price was falling the other way?
Not initially, George, because initially, I've got to be honest with you, I actually was making a fair bit of money. I bought shares, I bought shares, I bought shares, and then I sold them for a profit. However, retaining what I then had and realizing what was happening with the share price, I just didn't quite know what was going on. I tried to ask questions, I tried to look into what was happening, but I really had no clue as to why the share price was going up and down like a toilet seat. When it dropped from probably somewhere in the order of 250 to 280 down into the ones, I started to purchase more because I figured I was going to average down. But that was my mistake, because at this point, the share price has never really recovered. And in fact, I started to incur fairly substantial losses along the way, which I never recovered from. But I never quite knew what was behind all the stock manipulation, the results of the company. At this point, the company actually had changed name, and they went into, I believe, they call themselves Quantum. And that's what I started to following Quantum. Results, same shareholders, same principles behind the company. What was happening? Why? Could not really understand why.
What was your reaction to the allegations in the lawsuit filed by Quantum Biopharma against CIBC and RBC? What was your reaction when you saw the allegations by Quantum Biopharma of stock manipulation by those companies and others?
My first reaction was about time, because frankly, I've read enough all over the place about big companies, be they pharmaceutical companies, financial organizations, who literally always somehow or other end up coming out on top. And I figured that if somebody was going to take them to task, this was a particularly good example where individual investors like myself, who eventually ended up losing a chunk of change because of stock manipulation. I don't understand how it's done. I believe it's all run by algorithms. It's run behind the scenes. It's run at midnight. But somehow or other, those stock values would go up one day, and the next day they'd plummet. Why? What was going on? I have no idea. So yes, the answer is I feel very strongly that in fact it's about time that somebody called them to task.
If you don't mind me asking, I've asked all the other guests, and this is how much you want to disclose up to you. But can you generally tell us how much of your investment you lost, especially between January 2020 and August 2024, ballpark? We're not doing exact accounting, but are you able to share that with us?
Yes, I can, but it's not just myself. I lost in excess of $500,000. And I also, at the time, had recommended huge an FSD Pharma to a whole stack of friends of mine, including accountants, who therefore also got involved. And I got a bit of a black eye because ultimately I was saying, I've made money with this company. It's going places. Things are going to happen. Stick with it and so on and so forth. But when in fact the company then had reverse stock splits and the stock went down and the value of every single person's investment went to hell in a handbasket, I then ended up with a black eye for the simple reason that I had recommended the stock very, very strongly. And it didn't do me any
Yeah,
good.
you're talking about that black eye. What in addition to the financial losses and obviously I'm sure some issues with your friends. I wouldn't blame them either. And it was out of all of your control, it appears to be allegedly. But what was the toll on your personal life from all this, in addition to the funds that you've currently lost?
Well, the toll is one of those things where when you wake up at night and you have to try to go back to sleep, regrettably, I kept on thinking about the fact that I'm down $500,000 and I've got to have to make it up somewhere else. I'm at an age where, in fact, that is an important part of my financial plan for my daughter and for her studies. So it's important. Yes, it hurt.
Anthony, I'm hoping that we're going to be able to have you back on here, as well as the other investors who shared their stories, when we have, fingers crossed, a successful outcome of the lawsuit, where you got a combination of some of your funds being recovered, and then your existing shares may be starting to increase in value if this alleged stock manipulation can be put to an end, and it all ends in a happy story. But I really want to thank you for taking the time to share your story. I know it's not easy, and I applaud you for that. And I hope this is going to encourage a lot of other people to come out as well. And I really thank you, my friend.
My pleasure, George. If ever you need something else, you know where to find me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
The information discussed in this interview pertains to allegations that have been made in a legal filing. These allegations have not been proven in court, and all parties are presumed innocent until proven otherwise. This content is for informational purposes only and does not constitute legal or investment advice.
Smash that like button, drop us a comment, and share it to fire up that engagement algo so other investors can discover this company.